Jared Greer, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited for our listeners to hear what your job is. Would you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Jared Greer. I lead a ministry called Overcoming Obstacles Ministries. Way more important than that, though, I'm a son of the Father. I am married to my wonderful wife, Sally, and I have two sons, Micah and Bennett, 14 and 10. And I do American Ninja Warrior, and I take a portable course around and use it as a way to share the gospel.
Very cool. Okay, that's so fun that's what you get to do. Just American Ninja Warrior all the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of work to build a course all the time, but I would do it every day because it's worth it.
Okay, I can't wait to talk to you about this. But before we get into your story, because this is a show for kids, I always ask my guests to tell me a joke. So, do you have a joke for us today?
So I'm not naturally one to just be like, oh, I can remember this joke. I'm terrible at remembering like the punchline or whatever. And so, but I know you had my friend Daniel Gill on, and I had
Yeah,
listened to his episode, and he did a ninja joke. So I felt like obligated that I needed to bring
to
a
do a
ninja joke
ninja
as
one.
well. So
Okay, let's hear
let's see
it.
if I can remember it. Here we go. All right. So, what kind of shoes do ninjas wear?
Ooh, I don't know.
Sneakers. I feel
Sneakers.
pretty good about
That was
that
a
one
good
as a
one.
dad, you know? So
That's
my
good.
son my son Bennett is 10, and we laid in my bed and watched dad jokes like yesterday because I was like, I gotta have one, you know? So
Yes. So it's kid approved. That's even better.
get approved. Yeah.
That's right. That's good. Okay, so let's talk about American Ninja Warrior. Now, this is not a TV show that you can just stumble upon and jump into. Like, you really have to prepare for it. How did you get interested in this show, first of all? And then how did you get on it?
Yeah, so I grew up playing football, basketball, baseball, so just always naturally loved athletics. And so then, like I never picked one. You know, you really need to kind of specialize in
Yeah.
something to like become the best. So I was pretty good at all three of those. But preparing for college, I felt called to ministry, and in my freshman year of college at East Texas Baptist University, I was there and I was thinking about playing collegiately, and they had said I could try to walk on, but none of them were like, "Hey, here's a big scholarship," you know? So I was wrestling with that. And the same time that I was making that decision, my friend was like, dude, you feel called to ministry. Why don't you just jump in? And so I applied at this little bitty church, and they hired me as a freshman in college. I had like five
Nice.
students. I think one was the head deacon's son, and one was the secretary's daughter. So it was like three students other than the staff, you know? So
Right.
but got started as a youth pastor super young, and along the way, I started watching American Ninja Warrior. I think before it was like on NBC, it was like on some G4 network or something,
Oh, okay.
like back in the day. And so I would watch it, and I'd think, I can do that, you know. But I had no idea, you know. Like I would sit on my couch, eat Doritos and Bluebell ice cream, you know, and think I could do that.
Now, I can
Little
tell you I've watched this show and I've never thought, "I can do that." No, I could fall into the pool. I could do that part.
So it's not easy, and so like I ultimately was like, I think I could do that, but just that was a thought, you know. So but then
Mhm.
some of my students were like, hey Jared, dude, have you seen American Ninja Warrior? And I was like, yes. And they're like, you should try to be on that show. And I just kind of tucked that away, and then God moved me to another church, different group of students. No, you know, they had no idea that I had had that conversation with other group. They're like, hey, have you seen American Ninja Warrior? I was like, yes. They're like, you should try to be on it. I was like, oh, this is a
Yeah, there you
sign
go.
from God, you know? So I just Googled how do you get on American Ninja Warriors like 2013. So
Okay.
a long time ago. And you have to send in a 3-minute submission video, and they show your ninja skills and your personality. And because a lot of it's they want personality and story, and they want to see that you're kind of athletic, you know? And so I send all that in, crickets. I don't get picked, you know?
Yeah.
So I just moved on. I think I just had my first son, and so like I just ate, you know, like I just was out of shape. And a year passed, I gained a pretty good bit of weight. And a year later, one of the producers from the show called me and said, hey Jared, we liked you. Your video was kind of trash, but we liked you. And I was like, "What, do you just rub this in, you know?" And they're like, "No, but bro, we like you. If you make a new video and it's better, we're gonna pick you." And I was like, "Let's go." So I hang up the phone. And I was like, "That's awesome." And then I looked down and I was like, "Oh shoot, I gotta lose some weight." And so I lost, no joke, like I lost 30 pounds in 30 days, which I would not advise because that was like
Whoa.
starving, but I had to do it quick. So I lost 30 pounds. I'm running, I'm training, but I had never been on a Ninja Warrior course ever. I just thought it looked cool. So I submit the video and I ended up getting picked and I was so excited. I was so pumped. And so yeah, I got selected, and then from there, it went about how you would expect it to go with no experience.
Yeah.
My first round that I ever got to be on, 2014. There's this giant log called the log grip. Maybe you've seen that where you like hug this giant log,
Uh-huh.
and I ride this log down the slider, and it drops. And as it drops, I start to lose my grip, and usually you fall in water, right?
Right.
And so I realized like I don't land in the water because I slide down it. I land halfway on the platform, the mat, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm good." And I don't know if your listeners can relate to this, but I just had like a moment where I wasn't thinking, adrenaline spikes and all that. So I was like, I'll just get up and move on. But the log had swung out. And so as I get up, the log swings back for the knockout. It knocks
Oh,
me in the water.
no.
Super embarrassing. And what do they show on TV? They show that clip,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
they
so
zoom in on that one, right?
the announcer's name is Matt Eisman, and he's like, and the log comes back for the knockout. And so that was my first experience on American Ninja Warrior.
So, you didn't, like, go to, like, a ninja gym or something like that to train or to learn?
They didn't even have any back then. So like
Oh,
I
okay.
think maybe in Houston, that I live, just south of Fort Worth. And so at that point I was living near Dallas. And so they didn't have a gym that I was aware of. And
Mhm.
so in Houston they had one, but I didn't even know about it. So I
Okay.
just showed up,
Wow.
I'm doing pull-ups, I'm running, I'm like, I'm gonna do
You're
awesome.
like, "I'll be fine."
Yeah, not
I
how
l
it works. I showed up and the guys have like 800 abs and they're like total trained, and I'm just like this random youth pastor just jumping on this,
I
so
love your confidence. I love that so much.
yeah, it just did not work out, but it was funny, and at the same time, like I fell in love with the sport, and then there
Sure.
was a gym that popped up in Dallas, and then I started going and started learning and feeling more confident doing local competitions. And the next season, I applied thinking there's no way they're gonna pick me,
Yeah.
but they did. They picked me, and I was just like, all right, I want to hit a buzzer. I want to tell the world about Jesus. They have that like sideline interview, like, how are you so awesome? And I'm going to be like, "Ah, Jesus.
Yes.
But that's not what happened. I got one
No.
obstacle further and I tripped and I fell and I was like, ah. And so, along the way, maybe, like people can understand, like, you can set out for these goals and you think that it's going to go perfect, but that's not life. I
Right.
have, my friend Daniel, he's won the whole stinking show. Like some people are just born to be the best, but like
Yeah.
the rest of us average people, like we can hold it down. And so like I want to be excellent. I want to do the best with everything that God's given me. But sometimes we trip, that's literally what I did on the third obstacle. My second attempt was I tripped on this show, and it is what it is, and I fell and I was like, man, what do you do when you fall? You get back up. And I
Mhm.
just keep getting back up and saying, okay, God, how can you use my failures for your glory? How can you use
Yeah.
my success for your glory? Whatever happens, 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether you're eating or drinking or whatever you're doing, do it all for the glory of God.
That's so good. And I think too, it's good to have a passion to win or to be a champion or to hit the
Yeah.
buzzer. But I think when we do that, we hold that with open hands,
Yeah.
knowing that, you know what, I want what God wants and whatever He wants best. I'm going to work for that and I'm going to train hard and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. But having those open hands to say, but it's still in God's hands, whatever happens. So I think
Absolutely.
that's good that that's how you approached it. How many times have you been on American Ninja Warrior?
So 2014, 15, 19, and then this upcoming season, I got back. And so this will be my fourth
Nice.
time on. It'll be, I believe the episode will be June 23rd of
Okay.
25.
Now how was that after not doing it for so many years?
That
What
was
what was that like?
crazy. Yeah, so the first time, I fell on the giant log. The second time I tripped on another log. And so like
No
I hate
logs for
logs. So I'm
you.
just so then 2019, like there was a gap there, right? Like so 2015 to 19 I hadn't been on. And so what I did in between, and I'll answer your question. The log answer is like in between I was like, man, I didn't get picked, but I love this. And I had heard that you could be a course tester. So I
Oh,
emailed the challenge producer and I was like, "Hey, can I come be a tester?" And he said, "Yes." And so I stayed involved, like instead of like, if God was calling me to move on, I would have just moved on, but I just fell in love with it and I thought maybe there's a way to use this for ministry and just a way to just, do this thing. And so I became a tester. And so
cool.
2016, 17, 18, I was a tester, just getting to try obstacles. It's being a crash dummy, basically. Like you're just like, is this too hard? Is it too easy? And the producers are helping figure out, using you to figure out if it's the right course.
Yeah.
And so I did that. So then 2019, I got back on, and every time I've been on, I get one obstacle further. So I fall on
Okay.
the second, third, fourth. There's 6 obstacles on the first round. That's where you can hit the buzzer after the warped wall. So then there's this hiatus from 2015 to 19, but then 2019 to 2024 is when we filmed. It was crazy, and this time I was the first competitor of the season, like filming. So the nerves and the weight of
Oh,
that
wow.
was wild, but I just went into it saying, this range of emotion of being a human, like I'm anxious, I'm freaking out, oh my gosh. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I have peace from Jesus. And so, but the moment I stepped on that stage, I had that peace and I just full sent it and went for it.
That's amazing. And can you tell us how you did on this
I'm not
upcoming
allowed. I'm sworn to
Oh, okay.
secrecy,
I was like,
but
exclusive information.
yeah, I'm so proud of it though. I'm so happy. At the end of the day, like I think they're definitely gonna feature me and my story. I do some trick shots. And then they're also they said they're gonna feature the ministry, and so that's what's so cool to me is that we get to hopefully get to proclaim the love and the goodness and the hope we find in Jesus on NBC and Peacock. So I mean, how cool is that?
That's amazing. I think that's awesome, and I can't wait to watch your episode. That's
Yeah.
gonna be so cool. Now tell me about this ministry. You started a ministry called Overcoming Obstacles, and you get to just take your obstacle course all over the country. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what we do. So, working as a youth pastor, until 2018, and along the way, like competing on the show, I was like, man, how cool would it be to like give people a live American Ninja Warrior type of experience, and then let everybody play on this course, and then press pause, and then explain the gospel, and just say, hey,
Mhm.
the biggest obstacle we're going to face in life is sin, and that none of us can overcome that on our own, but that Jesus came down. He lived the life we could never live. He died the death we deserve to die. He rose from the dead. And if you'll turn from your sin and believe in Jesus, you'll be forgiven, have everlasting life. And so I love declaring the gospel. I love just trying to make it clear for kids, teens. And so we created this experience, and my dad and I, we just built like this wooden structure, and we took it. We had an event at my church that Daniel
Mhm.
Gill spoke at, and it was great. And then I did a few events for some other churches. Sometimes, no offense, youth pastors, but we're not always very smart. And I called my youth pastor buddies. I was like, "Hey, I got this idea. Can I come test it on your group?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Let's
And so
go.
I go do some events, and 5 teenagers give their life to Jesus, and I'm like,
Wow.
"Let's go." And so I was like, "Man, maybe this could be a thing." And so I mean, at the beginning, we had like nothing professional. It was all like mattresses covered in tarps and like this crazy experience, but it was fun and it was great and every event went really good. And so these guys in my church believed in the mission, they believed in the concept, and God put me in a church with this guy who builds parks and playgrounds all over the
Oh,
Dallas-Fort Worth
wow.
area. So he was like, "Dude, I want to make you some stuff." He made me a salmon ladder. He made me a 15-foot warped wall, and he
Whoa.
gave it to me. Another guy in my church built this structure for like swinging on rings and stuff, gave it to me. And we just slowly started building it out. In every event, almost every event, people received Jesus. And we're like, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
And so 2017, I formed a nonprofit, Overcoming Obstacles Ministries. And in 2018, I felt led to go full time. And also, my wife was like, all right, I think you're right. Let's do this full time.
Yeah.
And so we took the jump. We stayed in our community at our church. We still live in Grandview, Texas to this day, to where we can like serve at our church and be there, but they are our support system. And so, yeah, we've been doing events for 10 years. We've done over 500 events. We have seen over 180,000 people play on our courses and hear the
Wow.
gospel, and we've seen over 4,100 people receive Jesus. And so it's just been
Wow.
awesome. It's been a cool journey.
That's very cool. So, what is it like? Like, when you're coming in, do you set it up at a church or a school, like, in the parking lot, or can you do it indoors?
Yes, we do outdoor, indoor, and so now our course is not mattresses and tarps and
That's good.
things, not wood. Now we're like super professional. We look a lot like the actual show,
Okay.
and so we bring like aluminum truss frames and all soft play stuff. And so we'll have like there's an event going on today. I train other people to lead events as well. I lead about half of our events, and so what we'll do is we have stuff that's like ranges for preschool kids all the way up to the real deal salmon ladder, warped wall, and so everybody can play. So what we do, we'll come in a day before, we'll build the course. Two people from our staff come, and then we partner with like 8 volunteers from the church. And so we'll build it, and that's a whole ministry
Yeah,
construction experience in and of itself.
sure.
But then the next day, usually it's like a 2 to 3 hour event where everybody can just play, and then we'll demonstrate. So like we'll try to show off a little bit and just get everybody hyped up, and then we'll pause, and then we'll share the message, and then have a response time, have a response team, from the local congregation to be able to follow up, and then everybody can go back to playing. So a lot of our events are like that. I also preach disciple nows and camps and be like the camp pastor, and so we'll theme it out, overcoming obstacles for the whole
Mhm.
experience, and it's been so cool.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. What do you think is your favorite, event or obstacle that you have to do on the show or at your events?
So I'm 37. So like I'm
Okay.
starting to get a little old, you know what I'm saying? For being a ninja warrior, right? And so but I still love it. I love the warped wall, and I've had some Achilles issues. I've never tore it, and I pray I never do. But
Yeah.
I've had to overcome that. And so being able, like yesterday I was running a warped wall, and I'm like so grateful that I have enough health to do it. And so yeah, I love running up a warped wall. I love like just still being able to do it. I've been doing this 10 years, and so it's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Are there any events that you're, like, afraid of or they make you extra nervous when you
Yeah.
see them coming up?
Yeah, so I think any ninja would answer that by saying that the only obstacle that scares them is doing that obstacle the first try,
Oh,
if that makes sense, right? So, like, on the
sure.
show, you don't get to try these obstacles. Like, your first, what you see on TV is everybody's first run.
Oh, so they don't get, like, a practice or, like, a
No
run through?
practice. No.
Oh, bummer.
You watch one tester, and they give you the rules, and then it's your turn, you know? And so, like, I think I can beat most any obstacle. I'm sure there's some things I cannot beat, but, like, I
Mhm.
can beat a lot of stuff, but first try is really hard to do, so,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Especially if you haven't done it before.
Right, right, and so and you don't know. You don't even know what the course is gonna be. You might kinda hear something here or there, but you don't know till you get there. And so 10 years ago, I fell on that log, and so one of the reasons I think they brought me back this season, I had to reface that log. So
The log.
that's
Yes.
your commercial is that,
Redemption.
redemption. And yeah, it was super nerve-wracking to I mean, this is a sermon, right? Like, you have to face your past. I
Yeah.
had to face my past and look at it right in the face, but I was like, let's go." And so
Now, I love that you were talking about something that you just love to do is sharing the gospel. And I know, you have this amazing platform that you get to share the gospel with the Overcoming Obstacles course, and you get to do all these things. But I think there's lots of times where we get to share the gospel just in our everyday life with a
yeah.
friend or something. So, would you just kind of share a little bit about how our listeners today could get better at sharing the gospel? Because I think some people, I'm one of those people. It
Yeah.
makes me a little nervous, honestly, to share the gospel with someone. What
Yeah.
would be your advice for them?
That's such a good question. I think that first and foremost, just making sure you just know the basic components of the gospel. Knowing that God exists, knowing that God loves you, that everything God does is driven by love. And then understanding just the basic Genesis 1 through 3, that God created everything, He made us in His image, everything was good. But then when sin entered the world, that sin led us out of God's design into brokenness, and that we cannot resolve that on our own. And so I
Mhm.
think just knowing those basic components, God is real, God loves us, sin entered the world, sin led us into brokenness, and now we're separated from God. I was raised like learning the Romans road, and that's
Mhm.
kind of always in my mind when I'm trying to share the gospel, is like kind of a roadmap to say, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Romans 6:23, the wages or the consequence of sin is death. And so I know I've sinned, we've all sinned. There's a consequence for that. Then
Mhm.
to go back to Romans 5:8, that God showed his love in this way, that while we were sinners, Christ died for us. And so we've sinned, we deserve punishment, but Jesus came and took that punishment. And then Jesus rose from the dead, and he offers to all of us forgiveness, and God's given us free will, and so
Yeah.
we can choose to go down our own path and try to figure things out on our own, or we can listen to what Jesus said. Jesus said that, with two words is how he described to receive the good news, the gospel, to
Mhm.
repent and believe. And so I just think just learning those basic components and mastering that just for yourself, that you know the gospel and that you've received Jesus, that you have him in your life, and that you've truly repented. You've changed your mind. You don't want to go your way anymore. You want to turn and follow Jesus. And then I've heard people talk about the word believe with three components. The
Mhm.
first is to hear the information about God.
Mhm.
The second is to agree with it. And I think a lot of people stop there. They hear that information that I just described, they agree with it mentally. But then the last component is like to trust, to actually take a step. And that's, through a
Yeah.
prayer, just calling upon the name of Jesus to be forgiven. And so I think, if somebody wants to have that conversation, then just really, studying the gospel, maybe spending a month to just trying to master it yourself. And then just talk about it with your spouse, talk about it at home, talk about it with your kids. Like I have two kids, and just, I was a youth pastor, and then I'm sitting there with my 4 and my 5 and 6 year old kids when they're really little, trying to figure out, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do I share with them? And I think just share out of the overflow of your relationship with Jesus seems to be what
That's
has worked
good.
best for me. Like just you're reading the Bible and just talk about it. You read it with them. And I think that naturally, the more you talk about it, just like anything else with Ninja
Mhm.
Warrior or anything, like the more you do something, the better you're going to get. And so
Right.
I think make it part of your rhythm.
That's good. I think for me, it's really easy to tune out
Mm,
when I hear somebody else sharing the gospel. Like in the church service, at the end of the service, they're sharing the gospel for people. And I've just been challenged recently to think about, instead of tuning out, first to listen to how
yeah.
that person is sharing the gospel, because that's a great way for me to learn what
Yeah.
I need to say next time. But two, to appreciate what Christ has done for us.
Mm,
So when we listen to somebody else share the gospel, even though we've already accepted it, I've been a Christian for many years. I got saved when I was very young, and so I've listened to a lot of gospel messages, and
mhm.
just to be able to listen to what God has done for me through Jesus, and that I can still trust in him no matter what. And so I think that that's just so important for people that are trying to learn more about sharing the gospel with their friends or their family, just to listen and to just thank God for what he's done for us, because the gospel is still good news. Even if
Yeah.
you already believe, it's still
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I guess if people who've grown up, in the church or
Hmm.
whatever, you can grow accustomed to just kind of, oh, here's the end of the service, here's the
Yeah,
gospel. I know that, check, I've graduated, but we never graduate from the gospel, right? Like
that's right.
it saved us in the beginning, that spiritual birth, but he's still saving us and still sanctifying us, making us new people. And so,
Right.
yeah, it should excite you every time you hear it.
Yeah, and I love that you said just sharing from the overflow of your own relationship with
Mm,
God. So as you're learning more about God, to share that with others, even if they don't believe. Just, this is
yeah.
something I'm learning about my relationship with God. And I think you're going to be surprised at how much people respond to that, just because they're hearing your personal connection to it versus like, here's all of the verses I've memorized
Yeah.
from the book, like
Yeah.
that's, they could hear that too, but I think those personal connections to your story are gonna make such a big impact.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast today. A pastor I love to follow. He was asked like, "Hey, what's the greatest leadership tip you've heard? You've been around all these amazing leaders," and he was like,
Yeah.
really just that your walk with Jesus is the most important thing. It's like that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. Like if we can keep that at the forefront of our lives, then there are other things we have to figure out, but like they'll fall into place. I mean, Matthew 6:33, seek
Mhm.
first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. If we don't get the just walk with Jesus part right and keep that first and foremost, like everything else hinges on that. And so
Yeah.
I just think that's so vital.
Absolutely. So good. Well, this has been so great, Jared. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for talking about evangelism. I think that that's so important for us to keep in the forefront of our minds and to keep sharing and to be praying for you and your ministry as you're sharing the gospel. We can definitely be doing that. Tell us how we can find out more about overcoming obstacles.
Yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just Overcoming Obstacles Ministries. And then I do trick shots, and we're just launching the
Mm.
Trick Shot Ninja TikTok. And so
Ooh, okay.
that'd be a fun follow. And so all the people who like Dude Perfect and all those things, all you preteen boys, you should
That's
follow
right.
that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But then also our website is obstacleministry.com, and you can check out all the different courses we have. We're based in Texas, but we've literally been in 19 states, and we'd love to just go any and everywhere and whatever opportunities there for us to share Jesus with kids, you know?
I love that. Thank you. And I'll definitely be putting the links for that in our show notes. So if you want to learn more about this ministry, you can go to our show notes and click on those links and check that out. So thanks for sharing that. All right, before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So what do you want to share with us today?
All right. So, when I was growing up, my dad worked at a Christian radio station in the Houston area. So we grew up in the Houston area, and so he would get these media passes to go to Houston Astro games. And so it was pretty cool because I just felt like we were like super special. We could go up in the press box,
Oh,
and we
cool.
could like get free peanuts and not just a Snickers, but a Snickers ice cream bar. Like that's
Ooh,
threat there. And
yes.
so we'd go up there and get free stuff. It was awesome. So that was super cool. But I remember one time we went and it was like the run the bases night. And so I got to go on the Astrodome turf and run the bases, me and my sister. And my oldest sister has no interest in sports, so she didn't run the base. But me and my other sister, we ran the bases, and I remember that like I could smell it, it was like
Yeah.
such a tangible, cool experience because I was like diehard baseball fan, and so super special times with my dad and my whole family. But also just like that was awesome. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you got free food.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
can't beat that.
That's right. That's so good. Well, Jared, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing. This was great.
Yeah, thank you for having me.